Light.
Is there any way all the lights can go out? I believe that. Yeah. Good point. Good point. Well, almost feel reprieved late last night. I said it's been a strange season. I went through it individually. We had practice a little bit yesterday just to cover some things, get some sweat on us so that we could get rid of maybe the season. I think we've kind of deserved some of what we've gotten, and I think in some ways I still think we're better than what we've played at times. I'm look back at the game, and yeah, I guess I'm proud of the effort to come back after the rocky start. Why the rocky start? You know, we've had a season where here's another team that they hit 2 threes from guys shooting 20%. And I think the biggest thing is when you go back and watch the game, boy, when we doubled them a little bit, when we didn't, the shots that kid made in that game, that Ware made, were a lot tougher on film than they were when I was sitting there. And so I have no problem with the way they were covered. It was just the shots he made were incredible. And even though we're not happy with the finish, it's a new season. That's the one advantage that we have in basketball. We get a conference tournament and hopefully beyond. So how we finished wasn't exactly how I wanted to, but when I look back at how we played in most games and how these 1 or 2 points makes a difference in the outcome, I'm still very optimistic on where we can go. I still believe in the group. We have tested ourselves against one of the tougher schedules we've had. When you really look at it, it won't be the toughest because we played like 5 teams in that non-conference that were really good. That includes Butler, who beat Creighton, who beat Marquette on the road. They went on a little bit of a slump at the end. But when you look at teams like Oakland, which I do want to wish Campy good luck today as he plays for an NCAA bid tonight. Indiana State got beat in a championship game. Still could get in. I think, then you look at the other teams, including even our exhibition game, but, there's 3 teams in there that are going to vying for 1 seeds, and there's about 6 or 7 teams that are all going to be 3 or 4 seeds or less. So I think we are battle tested, which going into the Big Ten tournament is going to help us. We just need to play a little better. I mean, there's no question about it. We need to have a group of guys play better. We can't have poor shooting nights, and we can't miss free throws. Those have been some of the culprits on maybe what's happened. So that's what we're going to work on. I said about Minnesota at the beginning of the year, Ben Johnson's a guy I've known forever. I think he's done an incredible job there. I think he's put together a very, very good team. Garcia is as good as he could play on any team in the league. The Payne kid, the big kid, has really come on. Christie is, well, like his brother, is having a very good year. In some ways, even better year. And they've got enough other guys. Mitchell, the kid, the other guard, has shot the ball well, and of course Hawkins is a jet quick point guard. So we split a pair of games with him. We beat him here. I thought up there we played some of our better, all but a 5-minute stretch, both when Tyson got hurt and also going 7 of 17 from the free throw line and a couple front ends of a one-on-one. So splitting that pair with them, we understand how good they are. Splitting that pair with them, we understand where we are. As I said, in Garcia, Hawkins, Mitchell, Christie, and of course Payne, they bring tremendous size, not as maybe as deep a team, but they bring size. They bring a 6'11" guy who can shoot threes, and we're going to have to play well. But I think we will. Questions?
Hey, Tom, you mentioned it at the outset about being proud of them, how they fought back. You mentioned it more than once post-Indiana about how proud you are of them fighting back. How does that help you going into this new season that you referenced with the tournament, and how important is it to still take advantage of the fact that they can come back? Not that you want to do that, but
Yeah.
they can.
Well, I think you get to the time of year when, listen, as disappointed as maybe some fans, and as I say, being 18 and 12 or 18 and 13 or whatever we are, is disappointing, but it's not 10 and 20. And so, but to the players, I think they look at that and, you worry about at the end of the year, how does a team respond? I think we did respond well in a game we had to win at home against Northwestern. I thought we responded well at Purdue. I thought Indiana, whether we like it or not, was one of the hotter teams in the league, and I thought they had a guy have an all-year performance. I mean, the performance Ware put on when you watch it on film was unbelievable. Give him credit, but we still found a way to be in that game, be ahead in that game, do the things we needed to do in that game, and I thought he made some incredibly tough shots, and I thought we missed some incredibly open shots. And so that's the way I approached it to my team after the game. That's the way I approached it yesterday. But you can't have those lapses. You can't have a missed layup. You can't have a couple missed coverages. They had the one layup to where Jackson's right there with him running down the lane, and they just throw it up there and from 60 feet, and he catches it and lays it in. Went right by his head, It wasn't his fault for not working harder. It was his fault for not finding the ball. So I think those are all correctable things. And I think when you look back on it, there's been enough games that everybody in this room would, if we had 5 more points, we probably would have won 4 more games. If we win 4 more games, everybody think we're great. We have the exact same problems, exact same issues. So I'm not looking at the cup half full or half empty. I'm looking at reality. And trust me, since Sunday night, I've watched film on just about every game we've played, and every loss for sure, and know exactly where we are and what we got to fix. And fixing it is an issue, but it's not unfixable, and it's not like we're that far off. I said it to you guys, when you have a year that you lose some close games, usually you say, but you won some games you should have lost. You'd have trouble coming up with many of those kind of games. You could look at 5 or 6 games that, we're an eyelash away from winning. You can look at maybe 1 or 2 that you could say we should have lost. I'm not even sure 1 or 2. So with that, I'm trying to not install confidence, because I'm kind of a reality guy, but I'm trying to tell them in reality, you're not as bad as everybody thinks you are. You're at a place where it's illegal to lose this many games, and rightfully so. And that's what you signed up for. We got to home up and own up to it, I should say, and play better. That's the bottom line. And playing better means making the layup, the stop, the free throw. That back when we won a national championship, Penn State wasn't very good. We won in overtime there. Wright State wasn't very good. We got beat there. I mean, it's just the way it is, and it's the reality I got to live with. Am I disappointed? 100%. Am I ticked off? 200%. Am I trying to sell you or me or people out there? 0%. I'm dealing with reality, and reality is we got a good basketball team. Whether it can be great is depending on what a lot of teams do. If we're going to shoot the percentages we've shot the last couple games from the 3, we're not going to be very good. And if we don't shoot well from the free throw line, we're not going to be very good. Defense has been pretty good. Our rebounding has been better. Up until maybe the last game, we didn't rebound quite as well. And I'm looking forward to being 0-0 and starting from here.
Tom, I know you don't want to convince us, you're not trying to convince yourself, but certainly messaging and motivation is important, especially this time of year. How do you kind of tread that fine line between urgency and desperation when you're
Yeah.
talking to this team and really in uncharted waters for your program in 25 years.
That's not true. But there's been games we had to win. There's been years we've had to win 2 games in the tournament. I mean, who knows where we are right now? I don't know. If you listen to the net or Ken Palm, like I don't, but if you, like everybody else does, you'd say we were in a week ago. No, I don't feel that way, but the desperation, to me isn't a good word. It's a good word to use, but I don't use it in their situation because I don't think kids can take the things they could take before. And so the easy thing for me is I've always dealt with the white elephant in the room. I talked about it a month ago. I talked about it 3 weeks ago. I talk about it at the beginning of the year. I talk about when I recruit them. The white elephant is, here's where you're at. Here's what expectations are. And you got to deal with it. Now, most years, so I want to make sure you're not totally wrong. Of the 20, I'd say 6 years that we're in the tournament, because I'm using the COVID year as we were definitely in. So of the 26 years, I'd say there've been 4 or 5, including the year with Miles, and we had to win some games down the stretch. I think I've told you about the speech I gave at Nebraska when we were pretty down and out. We were going there, and we had to win that game. It seemed like it was one of the last 3, and we talked about the white elephant in the room then. And so I think because I am honest with them, it sometimes hurts me. I am honest with you, it sometimes hurts me. But in this kind of situation, it's definitely going to help me because nothing changes. It's consistent. The message is consistent. This is what you got to do to win at this level. And the little mistakes, the my bad, that's nice for your parents. And it's not your fault. And that's okay. But really, every possession matters. And no more than when you get into any kind of one-and-done tournament setting. Doesn't matter, NCAA, Big Ten, Phil Knight Invitation, whatever the winner-go-home part of it is, Maui Invitational, they just seem to matter more, There is a desperation that if you don't do those things, you're probably going home. And so since that message has been loud and clear throughout the year, I don't look at this. What I do now is I try to show them why they aren't as bad as most people that they have to deal with, because I'm not on these, but what they have to deal with, I'm trying to tell them why. Is it an excuse? Not an excuse. I don't think you should ever go 7 for 17 from the line and miss a couple front ends of the one-on-one. I don't think you should ever go 23 for 40 from the free throw line. I think those things are reality. And I don't think it have happened very often here. So that's what I remind them on, and then look back on JMU or Minnesota up there, or Ohio State or Indiana, and say, you just take certain games. If you win, you're ranked and you're a hero. And that's what life's all about. And so I talked to them yesterday about life lessons, and I've done a lot of research with a lot of my former coaching friends in football and basketball, and I think we're in a good spot. I think I'm in a good spot, which is important because there's times I don't like me either. I don't have to worry about you not liking me. I don't like me. And today isn't one of those days. I like me a little bit, like my team a little more.
I'm wondering, the inconsistencies that have been there have been pretty consistent. The slow starts, the outside shooting, everything's kind of been up and down. I'm wondering if there's been one area where you feel like this team has made consistent progress to the point where it can lead you guys down the stretch.
Yeah. We have been consistent, one of the better turnover teams in the country, much less the league. So you give yourself a chance by not turning the ball over. At this time of year, I'm usually talking about the NFL playoffs. And what do you got to be able to do? You got to be able to do what everybody does. You got to be able to defend. Your defense got to be good. You've got to be able to take care of the ball. I mean, every Super Bowl I've seen, the one team with the most turnovers loses. And usually you got to be able to run the ball in football, and I think in ours you got to be able to defend and rebound the ball. We have been inconsistent in that area. Our shooting went from really poor to really pretty good. I mean, we're a 37 or 8% three-point shooting team over the course of the year. Now, it hurt us a little early when we started out. Think about this, 2 or 3 for 30-some. You know, it's hard to bounce back from that. It's hard to ever make that look good. We bounced back to get almost 40%. And now, you know, the last couple of games, you know, I think I look at Tyson, and I told you he wasn't injured, and I don't think he was injured to the point where we had to take him out of that, but he definitely feels a lot better the last couple of games than he has those 5 or 6 games before, including the Minnesota loss up there when he got hurt in that game. So I think we're healthy as we've been all year. I think that's important this time of year. I hear some teams have sprained ankles and different things. What I'd like to be a little more consistent on is like our fast break. I think that's very important. I thought the last game was the first time we pushed it with any consistency. And so I can't say shooting because we haven't shot the ball well lately, but I think we have to shoot the ball decent to win. I think we have to rebound the ball decent to win. Those 2 areas we've made some progress on. We haven't been as consistent. The turnovers, we've been as consistent. Getting more shots. We wanted to get 60-some shots. We got 65 the other day. We're getting almost 60 shots a game. Part of that is because we don't turn the ball over as much. So, I don't know, not as many as I want, but all those 1-point losses, 2-point losses, or up 3 with 2 minutes left. It seems like free throws, Iowa, I think we made 12, 13 less free throws than they did, you know. That has been a bigger part that you think you should be good at because all these guys were good. Now, if you look at the last 5 games from the line, we're shooting 74%, which is getting up to that 75, 6, 7 that we were at last year.
I'm wondering what you sense from your team as far as moving out of the postseason. Are they able to kind of flush the last 5 games and start fresh the way you kind of were talking about and asked them to?
You know, I know what I've asked them to. I know what I think they want to do, how they're feeling inside. You know, I don't know if you ever know that, you know. Like I said, times have changed, and a couple of the coaches I talked to even talked about how much harder it is to do certain things like that now. You never get to flush it because somebody's always reminding you of it. And but that's the nature of the beast now. That isn't going away. And so I just talked to him more about it. Had some individual meetings yesterday. Tried to talk to guys like Jaden. You know, I mean, Jaden's here at 8 o'clock in the morning shooting shots. You'd swear he's the best shooter that ever played here. And he had good shots in that game. You know, that's another thing. There's been years when we've had better teams and took worse shots. There's been years when we had better teams and turned the ball over more. We got great shots in that last game. We just missed some great shots. And that's the one area I don't hide behind. I don't put my arm around him and tell him everything's good. But I have to talk to him in a way of saying, you know what, Jaden, in your case, you work every day at it. You've earned the right to feel comfortable with yourself. And that's what I try to. You know, if there's other guys that haven't shot free throws as well, I say this is your chance in the next 4 or 5 days to live, eat, and sleep in here and shooting free throws. You know, it's those guys can fix it. But guys like a Jaden or even you're seeing Tyson shoot the ball better lately. I mean, I do think leg was bothering him a little bit, and he didn't shoot it as well in that stretch because early in the year he was shooting the daylights out of it. But if those two ever could shoot the ball well together, and our guard plays like it can, I think, and has, I think it makes us a much better team.
Tom, how different is your prep for the Big Ten tournament versus the NCAA tournament in terms of the famed 2-day deal in the NCAA tournament, well, it's every day in the Big Ten tournament, so you don't have the day between. You played everybody at least once, often twice. What does it look like for you guys? And then also, is there a tendency to, since you know what worked and what didn't in regular season games, to really try new wrinkles to how do you approach everything?
Yesterday was a long day. That's exactly what we did. We went through every game and we talked about, because a little harder this year to plan for the next game and the next game, but we do what we do. It's tournament time. And, that was one of the things we talked to our team about too. I think we've played, of the 5 teams that have led the league, we've played 3 of them twice. And 2, number 1 and number 3, we've only played on the road. That's Nebraska and Purdue, and played pretty well in those games. So I think they feel comfortable. They know where they're at. I think as far as preparation, we did look at what we did well against Minnesota and what we didn't do well, and I won't go into everything because it gives away the game plan, but there's a few adjustments we'll make on how we covered certain things. We did a lot of that late last night. We did some of it early this morning, and now we'll present it to the team today and tomorrow, and that'll be how we go. And then, I think there is an advantage to playing in the morning. It won't be when we get up that day at 7 or go over there at 9:30, but it will be when you're done. When you play a night game and you get done and you go back, everybody's so tired, and then you're trying to prepare for the next day, and then you're worried when you get to the next day that got a game in a few hours. So playing early, being done, if you can win the game, that prep that day is always easier than it is late at night.
Tom, you've never apologized for the expectations you created. The public has embraced, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
But as you say, you may be 7 points away from 22 wins. Maybe you're a Tyson Walker injury and frankly, a shotgun away from getting 22 wins if Jeremy Fears had been here.
Mm-hmm.
Point is, do you ever get tired of having to apologize for 18-win seasons?
No, I don't. Because, like I said, what I usually don't like is when people talk about things out of frustration that they really don't know that goes on, I'll give you the best example. Those bigs were so good the other day. So good. But their guards did nothing. And, our bigs have not been as good offensively. I mean, that's not one of the strengths we have, but those 4 other guys should be. And then people start, on our bigs. If you watch that film of the shots those kids made inside and don't think they were well defended and do I think he's going to make all those? If he is, he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. So, defend is not it, but some people think I've been defensive lately, including I got letters on the press conference that I've been defensive. I never defend my players against something I don't believe, because I never, ever, 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 through the worst times in the history of this school, and we all know what those were, did I ever close my locker room off to any of you? Did I ever take a player off limit to any of you that I know of him? Matt, you were here for my whole time. Mex, you've been here for less of it. Jack, you've been here for more than my whole time. Did that ever happen? No. So I apologize. Listen, as much as those people are upset, unfortunately, I'm afraid more of them are the real ones that are upset are more the people who are losing money. Gambling, I think those are the people that are really the ones that are the worst. But the other ones that are upset, my frickin' mother's upset. She's 97. She watches every game, Nobody, including my mother, is more upset than me. No player is more upset than me. So, as I tell them, what do you do when you fail? You work harder. and that's all I'm doing. And when I get frustrated, I go home and I say to myself, you created it, live with it. And then I ask myself, would you want it any other way? I mean, it wasn't our best season. Those last 3 games of the year, one when we had no students here, place was packed. If people didn't care, it wouldn't be packed. There's a lot of arenas that aren't packed right now. And so I've got to live with that, and but I wouldn't want it any other way. I worry a little bit more. Once in a while, if I was to be honest with you, and I talked to a guy that we all know yesterday that even he went through it a couple times in football. Once in a great while, does it get you down to the point where you say, what are you doing? Do you lose a little confidence? I'm no different than anybody else. You do lose a little faith in yourself. And, but it doesn't take as long to get it back, because I just, I woke up today, call from Gary Harris, call from Draymond, text from Denzel Valentine down in Australia. They know what time of year it is. And that's what the program's been built on. And then when I talk to Max or to Matt, and, you realize, boy, as some of these teams are winning, I was pulling for Indiana State last night. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm pulling for Oakland tonight, because that's why we schedule the way we scheduled. And did I think there'd be 3 teams we played that could be 1 seeds? No. But how cool is that? These are all good things. And the day that people aren't mad will probably be the day the arena's not full, and that'll be a bad thing. And so I'm 100% with them. I just wish the kids, the players, the ones that really play the game, didn't have to go through what they go through. But that too is their fault. Like, I don't know what I'm going through if I didn't have friends like, I always say Jim Hioso, I'll say his name out publicly, that told me for like 20 years now, don't read the paper, don't look at the internet. So I canceled the paper. I don't have Twitter. So I listen to him. But he calls me and tells me what it said, so it ruins the moment, But my players, every night. And kids aren't as mentally tough to start with. When you have to read that every night, it's hard, But they're reading it when we're really good. They're reading it when we win by 10 and the line is 11. They're reading it no matter what it is. So it's just, we all have to adjust, and that's the one thing I think this part has helped me. I got to do a better job adjusting too, and I will, and we will, and we're going up there to try to go 1-0 to start with, and then we'll move on from there.
That was Nick you talked to yesterday.
Maybe.
Just briefly, what did Draymond, Gary, and Denzel text you?
Oh man, it's what time of year it is, Coach. That's what time of year it is, and they know it's no magic. They know it's no snap your fingers and all of a sudden, you start coaching and players start playing. But they also know that, for the most part, this is what we do. And even though your question was good that, we're in an area we've never been in, it's not true. But it is seldom we've been there, and I respect that, and that makes me more excited than anything, because I said we've been inconsistent, but as a program, we've been pretty damn consistent, and that's what means the most to me and the most to them, because those are different era of people. I'm sure before the day's over, all the rest of them will call, and that goes from Gregory Kelser, who called the other day, that was in the 70s. To, whoever else will call that, Goran Sutan, that was in the 10s, and Gary's in the 15s, and Denzel's in the 17s, and whatever. So that makes me feel better about everything, because that makes me feel like they know what you go through. I mean, Denzel had one of the best teams we ever had here and lost in the first round. Miles and Jaron had one of the maybe as good a team as we've ever had, and they lost in the second game. They all know what it's like, and you got to be good, you got to be lucky, and you got to be injury free, and playing good at the right time. And that's what we got to try to do. We played a little better, but not good enough.
And then the last time you guys were in Minnesota, that post game was probably the lowest emotionally you guys have been, players and you included.
Mhm.
Does knowing the way that the last time you faced Minnesota there kind of add an extra layer of motivation heading into this?
Yeah, I'd like to say yes. I'm not sure that players are built that same way. If that was the guy, if that was Draymond, he'd be chomping at the bit by now. If it was Denzel, if it was Mateen, he would probably already be up there. He'd probably walked. And but I don't think players are quite that way. So we got to do it a different way, and the different way is this is a good team. I mean, it wasn't, when we lost to them up there, they were playing really well. And, I think that's one thing that has been another problem with everybody trying to figure out where we're at. I think one team has 3 wins in our league. There's one team that has 7 wins, meaning 7 conference wins. And then the next is 9. I mean, again, some of you that have been here forever, it's never been like that, ever. There's usually been 2 or 3, 4 teams really low, 4 wins or less. There's usually been a middle, and then there's usually been a high. There is a high, there's a big middle, and then there's one low. So every game you play in this year was a big game. And as I said, 2 of the teams that are 2 of the best teams, we didn't even get at home. We didn't have to play them twice, but we didn't play them at home either. So it's just harder to figure out where everybody is. So that's why I do go by the eye test. I don't go by all the numbers. And the eye test tells me we haven't played as consistent as we needed to. We've missed more free throws in games we've lost than we should. And we haven't shot the ball well in some games. Believe it or not as many as you think if you look at the stats, but some games.
Kind of going off what you said, this is just a random thought, but is that more mediocrity or more parity around college basketball? I don't think necessarily the Big Ten. I think that's kind of the whole right now, right?
Yeah, that's a good question that I don't really have an answer for. I think most coaches right now don't have an answer for a lot of questions. They're all trying to figure out. I mean, there's rumors out there right now as we speak, on some like blockbuster deals where it's like the NFL trade deadline, that kids are already moving, that are on good teams, that are playing. I mean, some of the things that I heard last night and this morning were mind-boggling. And thank God not with us, but 1 or 2 teams in our league, but other teams around. So I don't think anybody really knows, if it's mediocrity. I don't think play has been as good around the country. I think there's been more ups and downs, which I said in the first press conference. Is that because of mediocrity? Is that because of entitlement? Is that because there's maybe more good teams and it's not mediocrity? At the end of the year, I'll try to analyze that and in our final one give you a better thought from my standpoint. But right now, I just couldn't answer that. It's been more confusing. Tonight I might go recruiting and what are you looking for? What are you looking at? It's more confusing, and a couple of people that I know that got out of it, those were the reasons. It wasn't just the money or the transfers. It's trying to figure out where you are every single day, and that's never been that way in college football or basketball.
The other question I had was kind of going back to the defense, if someone told you after the Michigan game that you would hold opponents to 66 or so points a game and be right there in the rebounding battle, where would you think you would be? I mean, and
Yeah.
how much can that maybe drive you forward when the shots have been up and down?
You better go into you're like a witness that'll be, you better be careful, or we'll have to put some legal people on you, because that is the $1 million question. Where did I think we'd be? I thought we'd win 5 out of 6. I thought we'd be really good. It's pretty simple. If you do these things, those consistent things, you're going to shoot bad. As my example on football, they're gonna throw a lot of incompletions, but if they don't throw interceptions for touchdowns, if their defense is good, if they control the game, those stats are pretty good. Not great. Field goal percentage, defense a little up. Not great, but everybody's is a little up if you look at that. But that's the part that's confusing. But then you look back and you lead every minute of the Ohio State game to the last 0.6 seconds. It answers it. You know what happened at Minnesota. You know what happened the first game of the year. I mean, you laugh about it, but it's just part of the numbers game of how many games you win and what that perception is. So if we were 21-9, people would still be upset because we were picked higher at the beginning, and including me. But you'd have a better feel on this team, and then some of the big wins and some of the losses and wouldn't mean the same. So I don't know. That is a really, really, really good observation that I think, as I talk to all these coaches in both sports, that's the part that's most confusing for them too. Things don't sort of add up like they used to, because I think players have so many things on their mind that some of those other things happen even when those things are stable. That's my opinion.
Tom, the expectations that were put on your team basically started last April. Mm-hmm. So then it's all summer, all preseason that was around them. Mm-hmm. When you look back to the first month and a half, do you think that those expectations played any kind of role in how the season started for those guys? Was there any kind of reset within the season where it's like, all right, that's whatever we were supposed to be, forget about that. Yeah. It has to just sort of be what it is right now type of situation?
I don't think so. I don't think the group was cocky or arrogant or thought they were better than they were. I think there was, if you remember, in the first month of the season, I think the number 1, 2, 3 teams changed enormously. Remember the top 10, they were all over the map for a while, and I think everybody understood that. But I just keep saying, if that pressure gets to you, why did you come here? That's what I say. I mean, you knew what you were getting into. And that's what they all wanted. They want to get into that. They want to play the better teams. I think there is a problem right now that because the accountability isn't quite as good around the world, that little things don't matter quite as much. And that's when a free throw here or a layup there, or, it changes things a lot. And so that's what we're trying to impress upon them. And there has been a different mentality the last 4 games. I think there's a different feel for, we played pretty good. I mean, Indiana, it was not an easy place to play, and they played pretty well. And we were right there, even with a rough start. And even the rough starts, by the way, they were the first 4 or 5 games. But then, we had some great starts in games. And, and Judd used to say this all the time, if we have a good start, let's build on it. If we have a bad start, let's build on that to try to make it a good start. But let's make sure at the end we finish the right way. And you know, there's been some games we have not finished the right way. And veteran players, especially at the guard, veteran coach, I think there's a little blame to go with all of us. And I just made sure, as I probably look like not good, that the last couple of weeks that I'm trying to take care of my end of that bargain, because I have to do a better job too. And hopefully the players are taking care of theirs. And if we put those things together, if we get our guard play like I think, our centers gotta do what they do. We can't have them all of a sudden, somebody's not gonna score 20 points, so disappointment's gonna hit a lot of people, but that's the way that is. And if Malik can play like he is, I think we have enough depth, and I think we're good enough to make a run. So we'll see what the run is, and it won't be easy from the first game, because Minnesota is a good team. They've beaten some good people. What else? Fred, baseball here? Or you nothing? Huh? You know what? That floats my boat. I'll tell you that right now. That's exciting. Nothing else? Thank you. What's that? It did? Oh, that disappoints me. I had talked to Drew a week ago, because I thought he did do a very good job this year, and like I said, talked to Denzel today. But yeah, you know, it's one of those years where I do try to follow other leagues, and I especially try to follow people that, you know, I got one of our GAs at Virginia Tech, and, you know, he drew there, other people, other places, but kind of had my hands full with my own, so I didn't realize that he didn't get it. But all he has to worry about is, did he have a good year? Does the team get better? And hopefully, maybe he can do some damage in their conference tournament now. What seed are they, do you know? I mean, that's your school, so you should know.
I should know, but I think they're the top seed.
Yeah.
For second, did they beat?
One or two?
They beat Dayton though.
Because you beat,
I don't follow A10 as much as Big Ten, so.
God bless you. All right, guys, ladies, see you later.